everyone, and welcome back to Virtual Storytime from your very own Newark Public Library. As always, we are recording this live story stream on land that rightfully belongs to the Lenape Indian tribe. If you're tuning in from anywhere in our fair city of Newark, New Jersey, it is likely that you are on land that rightfully belongs to that Indian tribe as well. I am your host, Mix Allie. That is mix just like mixing bowl, not to be confused with Mr., Ms., Mrs., or Miss, because as you can see very well for yourselves, I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl either, I'm a unicorn. And so is my storytelling companion. Please welcome back Jonathan Van Unicorn. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, how lovely to see all of you this afternoon. Jonathan, how's your day going? You know, just like it was this morning, Mix Allie, it's going a lot better than my past few days have because of the ways we learned to manage anxiety yesterday. Jonathan, I am so happy to hear that that's still working out for you. Can you remind everyone watching what some of those ways that we talked about were to cope with anxiety? Oh, yes. So anxiety is similar to worry or fear. It is something that can creep up on you and make you feel so overwhelmed with worry and fear that it's very difficult to do anything. But there are ways to calm your anxiety so that you can take the action you need to take. And the 4 actions we've learned that are especially helpful are: you can breathe in and out, you can scan for safety, you can sense things with your 5 senses, and you can connect with your body. Which of those have been working the best for you, Jonathan? Oh, I found them all quite good, but you know what, Mix Allie? I think it's been a while since we demonstrated using our 5 senses. Jonathan, you're totally right. Shall we do that one together now? Oh, yes. All right. I'll go ahead and do that. So, the way this exercise works, we call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to identify 5 things we can see and 4 things that we can touch, 3 things that we can hear, 2 things we can smell, and 1 thing we can taste. Are you ready? I think everyone's ready, Jonathan. All right. Well, 5 things I can see are Mix Allie's computer with me on it, and I look very dashing. I can see Mix Allie's suitcase full of dress-up clothes over in the corner. I can see a box of letters Mix Allie has been meaning to send to people for a very long time. Yeah, thanks for that, Jonathan. Anytime. I see, a whole lot of pictures of unicorns doing yoga on the wall. I find them very inspirational. And finally, I see a whole lot of very colorful books on a bookshelf. Beautiful. Yes. Well, now on to things I can feel. I can feel, This is difficult, Mix Allie, since when I'm with you, I usually don't touch very many things, because in my human world form, I do not have, my hooves about me, but I can certainly feel your cheek. Yeah, that's right, Jonathan, you can. I can feel, I can feel the little table that you put your computer camera on. I can feel the computer itself. And finally, I can feel the book that you're going to read in a little bit. Very nicely done, Jonathan. Yes, now on to hearing. I can hear the sound of your air conditioner. I can hear the sound of my own famous voice, and I just heard a car go by outside. Nice, Jonathan. All right, what's left? Well, as far as smell goes, I can smell your coffee, and I can smell the fresh aroma of beautifully cut wildflowers that follows me wherever I go when I venture from Unicorn Land. And finally, the one thing I can taste right now is the lingering, excellent taste of the gumdrop I was eating before our virtual story time began. Huh! You know what, McSally? I'm very glad I did that. Yeah, Jonathan? How did it make you feel? Well, it just made me realize that it helped me to be mindful of my environment. It made me feel very, very grounded in this present moment, and I feel very conscious right now that I am surrounded by all of these things my senses can take in, and there is no danger anywhere. I don't need to be anxious, and I can be brave. Jonathan, that makes me really, really happy. Has doing that exercise made you feel ready to listen to a story? Oh, yes! All right. Well, today we're going to kick things off with a folktale from the American Southwest that was told by the Zuni Indians. And then we're going to read a little bit more of our chapter book, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Finally, Jonathan, how are we going to end? With a unicorn dance party, which is always my time to shine. It's true. All right, so now that you've had a chance to practice some good exercises that will send all of your worries away, get them off your shoulders, it is time for us to go ahead and relax and listen to some stories. How's that sound, Jonathan? Excellent. I'll just go right over here to listen. Okay. All right, all of you go ahead and get cozy. We're going to start out with this story called The Hunter Maiden. It is a Zuni tale from the American Southwest. We find it in this collection, The Maid of the North, Feminist Folk Tales from all around the world. It was edited by Ethel Johnston Phelps and illustrated by Lloyd Bloom. So here we go. The Hunter Maiden. Long ago, among the Zuni people in the Southwest, there lived a young Indian maiden. She lived alone with her aged parents in their pueblo. Her two brothers had been killed in warfare, and it was her responsibility to supply the family with food and firewood. The little family lived very simply. During the summer, when the girl grew beans, pumpkins, squash, melon, and corn in their garden, they had enough to eat. But when cold weather came, there were only dried beans and corn to feed the family. The Zuni people did not graze sheep and cattle in those days, so to keep hunger at bay through the winter, they had to hunt game. Have you heard that expression before? Hunting game means hunting wild animals for food. Her brother's stone axes and rabbit sticks for hunting hung on the walls unused, for it was the custom that only men could hunt, and her father had grown too old and feeble for hunting. One year, the cold weather set in early, and the first snow had already fallen. Now was the time for the girl to gather brush and firewood to store on the roof of their house. "We have very little to eat," she said to herself, "but at least we will be warm." As she worked, she watched the young men of the tribe go forth with their rabbit sticks and stone axes. Later in the day, she saw them return to the village with strings of rabbits. If I were a boy, she thought, I could hunt rabbits, and my parents would have meat to nourish them. She pondered this, saying to herself, there is no reason that I can't hunt rabbits. When I was a child, my brothers often took me with them on the hunt. Have you ever been told that there was something that you could or couldn't do because of your gender? That means because you're a boy, because you're a girl, because maybe you're something else. turns out there are a lot of things that you probably know how to do, even if someone tells you that there's something about you that keeps you from knowing how. And this girl knows that. So that evening, as the girl sat by the fire with her parents, she told them that she intended to hunt for rabbits the next day. "It will not be hard to track rabbits in the new snow," she said, because she's going to see their footprints in the snow, right? "The young men who went out this morning all returned with strings of rabbits, but we have nothing to barter for meat. The rabbit sticks and axes of my brothers are on the wall. Why should I not use them? Must we go hungry again this winter?" Her mother shook her head. "No, no! You will be too cold. You will lose your way in the mountains." "It would be too dangerous," said her father. "It is better to live with hunger. Hunting is not women's work." But at last, seeing that the girl was determined to go, the old father said, "Very well. If we cannot persuade you against it, I will see what I can do to help you." He hobbled into the other room and found some old furred deer skins. These he cut into long stockings that he sewed up with sinew and the fiber of the yucca leaf. Then he selected for her a number of rabbit sticks and a fine stone axe. So at first the father didn't think that the girl could go hunting, but since she is being very determined and saying that she definitely is going to go hunting, he's helping make sure she's safe when she does it. And I think her mother's going to as well. Her mother prepared lunch for the next day. Little baked cornmeal cakes flavored with peppers and wild onions. These she strung on a yucca fiber like beads on a string and placed with the weapons for the hunt. The girl rose very early the next morning, for she planned to leave before the young men of the village set out to hunt. She put on a warm, short-skirted dress, pulled on the deerskin stockings, and threw a large mantle over her back. The string of corn cakes was slung over one shoulder and the rabbit sticks thrust into her belt. Carrying the stone axe, she set out for the river valley beyond their pueblo. Though the snow lay smooth and unbroken, it was not deep enough to hinder her. Hinder means to slow you down. Moving along steadily, she came at last to the river valley, where she climbed to the cliffs and canyons on the steep, sloping sides. In and around the rocks and bushes, she saw the tracks of many rabbits. She followed the tracks eagerly, running from one place to another. At first she had little skill, but remembering all that her brothers had shown her, she at last became skillful enough to add many rabbits to her string. Snow had begun to fall, but the girl did not heed this, nor did she notice that it was growing dark. "How happy my parents will be to have food. They will grow stronger now," she said to herself. "Some of the meat we can dry to last many days." The string of rabbits had grown very heavy on her back when she suddenly realized it was almost dark. She looked about her. The snow had wiped out her trail. She had lost her way home. The girl turned and walked in what she thought was the direction of her village, but in the darkness and strangeness of falling white snow, she became confused. She struggled on until she realized that she was completely lost. "It is foolish for me to go on," she thought. "I'll take shelter among the rocks for the night and try to find my way home in the daylight." As she moved along the rocky cliffside, she saw a very small opening that led to a cave. Crawling in cautiously, she found the cave empty. On the floor of the cave were the remains of a fire, a bed of still glowing ashes. Had another hunter rested here and then left? Delighted with her good luck, She dropped her string of rabbits and hurried to gather twigs and pinyon wood from outside. She brought in several armloads to build up the fire for the night ahead. Sitting down before the crackling fire, she cleaned one of the rabbits and roasted the meat on the spit. With the remaining corn cakes, this made a fine meal. Afterwards, she lay back on the stone floor of the cave, ready for sleep. Then, from the dark stillness out on the mountain, came a long, drawn-out call. Thinking it was someone lost in the snow, the girl went to the mouth of the cave and called, "Here!" in answer. The crackling and snapping of twigs told her someone was coming nearer. Then she heard the sound of a loud rattle and saw the outline of a huge figure. "Oh!" called a harsh voice. "So you are in there, are you?" She stood for a moment, frozen in dismay and terror. Huge red eyes glared at her, and she knew it was one of the cannibal demons that haunted the world from ancient times. She ran to the back of the cave, crouching down out of sight. The monstrous demon was at the mouth of the cave, trying to get in, but the opening was too small for his huge body. "Let me in!" he roared. "I'm hungry and cold." The girl did not answer. Then the demon called out slyly, "Come out here and bring me something to eat." "I have nothing for you. I've eaten all my food," the girl answered. "Bring out the rabbits you caught," he demanded. "I can smell them. I know you have rabbits." The girl threw out a rabbit. The monster seized it in his long claw-like hand and swallowed the rabbit in one gulp. "More!" he demanded. The girl threw out another rabbit from her string. Again, he tossed it into his huge mouth. With a snap of his long, sharp teeth, it went down in one swallow. "Give me all the rabbits!" he shouted. Now the girl was angry. "I have no more. Go away!" The monster swelled with a terrible rage. "I'm coming in there to eat you and your rabbits!" Again he tried to crawl into the cave, but the opening was too small for even his head to get through. Then he stood up. Lifting his great flint axe, he began to shatter the stones at the entrance. Clatter, pound, crash went the axe on the rocks. Gradually, the entrance to the cave became a little larger. The loud crash of the flint axe on rock traveled clearly through the night air. Far away on Thunder Mountain, two war gods heard it. They knew at once that it was the cannibal demon's axe, and they knew he was again causing trouble. Picking up their weapons, they flew through the darkness to the cliffside where the demon hammered away at the cave entrance. They understood the situation at a glance. Each one swung his war club and hit the demon on the head. The monster fell to the ground, dead. "You are safe now, maiden," they called. "We will sleep out here at the entrance to your cave and protect you until morning." The next day, as the sun rose, sparkling the white snow, the girl came out of the cave with her string of rabbits. The two war gods praised her strength and courage. Then they walked with her down the snow-covered valley to guide her to her village. As they traveled through the fresh new whiteness of the world, the two war gods taught the maiden much hunting wisdom. When they could see the pueblo in the far distance, the girl turned to her two companions, bowing low and breathing on their hands to thank them. When she straightened up, they had disappeared. The girl walked into the village, proudly carrying her string of rabbits. All the people stared at her in wonder. Never had they seen a maiden hunter, and the number of rabbits she had caught astonished them. She did not stop, but hurried on to her own home. When she entered, her parents cried out in joy to see her unharmed. They feared she had been eaten by a mountain lion. "Now we have food to eat," she cried. "I'll cook a fine rabbit stew to make you strong, and there will be furs for the bitter cold of winter." "You have done well, daughter, and hunter maiden," her father added, smiling. "From now on, you will hunt for our family, and your brother's axes will be yours." And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed that story just as much as I always do. It is time now for us to return to our chapter book, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. When we left off, all kinds of things were coming to there was a lot of action. At this point, the pirates have kidnapped Wendy, John, Michael, and the Lost Boys. But Captain Hook still has some mischief planned. He wants to attack Peter Pan himself. So he is sneaking into the house under the ground where Peter is still staying to see if maybe this is his chance. Captain Hook let his cloak slip softly to the ground, and then, biting his lips till a lewd blood stood on them, he stepped into the tree. He was a brave man, but for a moment he had to stop there and wipe his brow, which was dripping like a candle. He may be a brave, strong pirate, but he is afraid of Peter Pan. Then, silently, he let himself go into the unknown. He arrived unmolested at the foot of the shaft and stood still there, biting at his breath, which had almost left him. As his eyes became accustomed to the dim light, various objects in the house under the trees took shape, but the only one on which his greedy gaze rested, long sought for and found at last, was the great bed where Peter Pan lay fast asleep. Unaware of the tragedy being enacted above, Peter had continued, for a little time after the children left, to play gaily on his pipes, no doubt rather a forlorn attempt to prove to himself that he did not care. Remember, Wendy, John, Michael, and the Lost Boys were leaving Neverland, and Peter wasn't going with them because he never wants to grow up. He was trying to pretend he didn't care that they were leaving, but really he was pretty sad about it. And he doesn't know, because he's still been in the house under the ground, that everyone else has been captured by the pirates already. Then he decided not to take his medicine so as to grieve Wendy. Then he lay down on the bed beside the coverlet to vex her still more, for she had always tucked them inside it, because you never know that you may not turn chilly at the turn of the night. Then he nearly cried, but it struck him how indignant Wendy would be if he laughed instead. So he laughed a hearty laugh and fell asleep in the middle of it. Sometimes, though not often, Peter Pan had dreams, and they were more painful than the dreams of other boys. For hours he could not be separated from these dreams, though he wailed piteously in them. They had to do, I think, with the riddle of his existence. At such times it had been Wendy's custom to take him out of bed and sit with him on her lap, soothing him in dear ways of her own invention. And when he grew calmer, to put him back to bed before he quite woke up, so that he should not know of the indignity to which she had subjected him. But on this occasion he had fallen at once into a dreamless sleep. One arm dropped over the edge of the bed, one leg was arched, and the unfinished part of his laugh was stranded on his mouth, which was open, showing his little pearly teeth. We've learned before that Peter Pan has all his baby teeth, since he's never grown up, since he was a baby. Thus defenseless, Hook found him. He stood silent at the foot of the tree, looking across the chamber at his enemy. Did no feeling of compassion stir his somber breast? Captain Hook was not wholly evil. He loved flowers, I have been told, and sweet music. He was himself no mean performer on the harpsichord, and, let it be frankly admitted, the idyllic nature of the scene shook him profoundly. Mastered by his better self, he would have returned reluctantly up the tree. But for one thing. What stayed him was Peter's impertinent appearance while he slept. The open mouth, the drooping arm, the arched knee, they were such a personification of cockiness as, taken together, will never again, one may hope, be presented to eyes so sensitive to their offensiveness. We already know that the reason Captain Hook hates Peter Pan so much is because Peter Pan is so cocky, which is another way of saying very full of himself, thinking he's better than anybody else. And Hook might have taken pity on Peter and not hurt him, but he's looking and seeing that even in his sleep, Peter Pan looks so cocky, and he's gonna do something that will be dangerous for Peter. Though a light from the one lamp shone dimly on the bed, Hook stood in darkness himself, and at the first stealthy step forward he discovered an obstacle, the door of Slightly's tree. It did not entirely fill the opening, and he had been looking over it. Feeling for the catch, he found to his fury that it was low down below his reach. To his disordered brain, it seemed then that the irritating quality in Peter's face and figure visibly increased, and he rattled the door and flung himself against it. Was his enemy to escape him after all? But what was that? The red glint in his eye had caught sight of Peter's medicine standing on a ledge within easy reach. He fathomed what it was straight away and immediately knew that the sleeper was in his power. So he can't reach Peter to hurt him, but he can reach Peter's medicine. What's he gonna do? Hook always carried about his person a dreadful drug, blended by himself out of all the death-dealing rings that had come into his possession. These he had boiled into a yellow liquid quite unknown to science, which was probably the most strong poison in existence. 5 drops of this he now added to Peter's cup. Then one long, gloating look he cast upon his victim, and turning, he wormed his way with difficulty up the tree. As he emerged at the top, he looked the very spirit of evil breaking from its hole. Donning his hat at its most rakish angle, he wound his cloak around him, holding one end in front as if to conceal his person from the night, and muttering to himself, he stole away through the trees. And that's where we'll leave off today. Captain Hook has poisoned Peter's medicine. We'll see if Peter can be saved. And we'll find that out tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us for more virtual story time from the Newark Public Library. Jonathan Van Unicorn and I are here every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 2 p.m. We also have virtual bedtime stories Monday evenings at 7 p.m. So please join us again sometime. We hope you had as much fun today as we did. And now it is time for us to close out with a unicorn dance party. So get on your feet and get ready to dance with us.
Castle by a waterfall with a pink and purple wall and a princess living there. She had no parents and was all alone, but she got by on her own and she liked it pretty well. 'Cause she never wore socks and she had a pet snake. She bought a red guitar and she ate a whole cake, and there wasn't anybody there to tell her what to do, so she did what she wanted to. And everybody knew the story of the princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. There was a dragon with a pointy tail. He was bigger than a whale and his breath was terrible. He scared the princess when he came around, tried to burn the castle down, but she caught him by his tail. Then she tied him to a tree so the dragon couldn't fly. She told him he was mean and it made the dragon cry. When he finally apologized, she offered him some tea. He accepted it graciously. Now he visits every weekend with the princess who saved herself. The princess who saved herself. She was an evil queen. She was wrinkled, old and green, and she hated everyone. She saw the princess in her silver gown, put the poison apple down, asked her where she bought her clothes. So they got the witch a dress, put some makeup on her face. They started up a band and the dragon played the bass. Every Saturday they play until their fingertips are sore, mostly math, rock, and cuddlecore. And they call themselves the kingdom of the princess who saved herself.